Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to be working on the caves in Spellcaster. As well as that, we're going to be adding a puzzle and a new spell. We're also going to be adding some really nice lighting to the caves with shadows. You can see here that I'm creating some assets for the caves. These are probably going to be used in most of the caves, but the assets to the left are only for this puzzle. So after importing them into the Godot and doing a bit of work, I have this. Some structuring for quite a nice cave that has these support posts to essentially hold up the cave roof. Now after that work, if we go through the cave entrance which we added last time, if you haven't seen that, go watch that before this. We come to the caves and I've added the tile map and the lighting. The lighting, however, does get better. Now what I'm doing is finding out where I want the player to be placed when this scene loads up from the cave entrance that we just went through. So all I'm doing is I'm setting the player X and player Y, and after I've done that, it should place the player where I want them to go. So after inputting those values and testing it, I get put exactly where I want to be. After doing that, I added in a color rec just to give an extra dark look, as well as a world environment, and you have to set the background to canvas so it affects everything. And with a canvas modulate and some tone map, it can look like this, and it looks really good. I feel like it gives off a really good cave aesthetic and it's just perfect. So after doing that, I decided to start work on the energy beam. Now originally I was following a tutorial by GD Quest. I think it's for Godot 3.5. I'll link the video in the description. Now, it looked really good, however, in Godot 4, you need to change it because there's no tween node, so you need to create it in the script, and it can get a little bit complicated, and I just couldn't get it to work, so this version of it just didn't work for me, and I had to change it. So at the time I didn't actually know that the tween node no longer existed, so you can see that I was trying to find it still. So I guess I'll just put some music on and you can watch me attempt to create this version of the laser beam. This process took so long, and I even decided to add particles with it that went along the beam, that were at the start of the beam and at the end of the beam. It just took a really long time, and I landed up scrapping it just because it didn't work. I did reuse the script, but I didn't reuse the scene. I just deleted the scene and made a new one with the new beam, which you will see later on. I didn't record it because I'm pretty sure you don't want to see 2 laser beams getting done in one video with quite a bit of troubleshooting. So the one that I landed up settling on was a tutorial by Heartbeast on how to create a laser, and I will link that one in the description below. That one is also for Godot 3.5 or 3.2, however it can be very easily adapted to 4.0. Now, as you can see, when I use the beam, just because of the way I tried to implement it, it's chaos. It's just filling up the screen with the beams, and it just doesn't work. It's really laggy, and I almost crashed the game once, so it just didn't work. So to take a break from making laser beam, surprise, is a feature that I didn't say that we'd work on, but we're going to create now and just continue to work on in the future. It's the pause menu, because I just thought it would be quite nice to have a pause menu. Now, those among you with a keen eye and who've watched some earlier videos, you'll notice that the panel that I'm using to have the background of the pause scene is the same background that I used for the text boxes. So it's quite simply just a theme that has a texture and a font in it, and you can see that I'm just messing around trying to add some different elements to it so I can have the panel. I did manage to find it, as you can see, and I just find the panel and I add all of it with the data, import it, and then I can put my texture in. I use the same theme to also decorate the buttons later on. However, I am going to create a custom button texture for the game and the pause menu. You can see that I drag in the text box asset and change it so that the 9 patch and the region works on it so that the corners don't get repeated inside the edge. Because if I didn't set it to be inside the corners, then I would land up with a very strange, slightly buggy pause menu that had some corners on the edges, and that just wouldn't look right, and I would have to go in and fix it. So this is the only way to do that, and once I do that, you can see that it scales properly and it looks perfectly fine. After a bit more work and making sure that it scaled properly so it doesn't take up the entire screen, I started adding the elements of the pause menu to it. So I started by trying to use horizontal box containers and vertical box containers, but no matter how hard I try, I've tried before, I just can't get them to work. So I went for a more manual approach and decided to just place the buttons down myself and work out how much space should be in between them. So there are 9 buttons on the menu, and each one will have a function, for example, saving and loading. So this is the finished pause menu, and you can see all 9 buttons. I hope you get excited about some of the things on there, like multiplayer and the saving and loading, which we will add in the future. So you can also see the laser beam that I added, and it looks really good with the particles. This one is the one from the tutorial by Heartbeast. It's a really good tutorial and I'll link it below if you want to check it out and use the laser beam in any of your projects. So after that I added in the bit of code that would make sure that I can't fire the laser if I don't have the spell. Now I didn't get time to add the spell, so in testing I just go into the remote tab and activate it through there, which then gives me the ability to use it. There was a slight issue with the beam where it would just go through solid blocks after a certain point. I fixed that by just increasing the extent that the raycast could go, and that seemed to fix it. As well as that, the beam was sometimes too short, but that was fixed by someone in the comment section and that was really helpful. You can just see here all of the code and this is what makes it work. Some of it is from the tutorial and some of it is from the commenter who actually allowed it to work fully, and some of it is my own input, just making it work more in Godot 4. This is the exciting bit where you can see that the puzzle is working. Essentially, when you fire the beam at this battery, it will start charging up and the light will get brighter, and when you stop firing, it will discharge and get dimmer. Once it gets to full charge, it will light up the little light bulb that is there. So I did a bit of testing to make sure everything worked, and there was a slight bug, but I did go back and fix that. As well as that, I made sure that the returning to the main world worked from the caves, which it did, and that was really good. So I also made sure to test the pause menu, which I did implement using a canvas layer to make sure that it always was at the top. I did find a bug where if you open the chest and then use the pause menu, then the item collect screen would show up, but you can see that I fixed that. I fixed it by making sure that after you open the chest, that canvas layer is deleted. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and it would mean a lot to me if you could share this video with other people and help the channel grow. But that's it from me, so goodbye.